Let's check out this video from Bellular over here.
Wild.
Which is massive changes are coming to World of Warcraft Dragonflight. Yes, I'm still checking out World of Warcraft Dragonflight information. Still making the decision as to whether or not I'm going to play World of Warcraft again. Although I'm leaning more and more towards not, especially after watching that Diablo Immortal video. Jesus Christ. But let's see what Bellular has to say.
Welcome back. Wow, there have been so many developer interviews recently. It's been kind of wild. T&E did a Twitter space with Ian and Steve. Mr. GM, he did a round with Holinka, and Ian hopped onto Asmongold's stream.
I'm still surprised they did that.
There's actually a lot of good here. Hell, I'll even start off with a fun one. There's no mission table in Dragonflight. Scrap.
No mobile video game systems? What? Oh my god! I love how Bellular says this like it's a major triumph. It's almost like, guess what, guys? You're not getting fucked in the ass today. No, but better yet, you're not getting fucked in the ass today with sand. They're gonna use lube this time. Major feature, no mission table. That's like a box feature. No mission table.
Waste the dev time, at least in the non-committal way they'd been doing those things anyway, so just cutting the bull and focusing on what players want is what makes sense, and it kind of seems like they're actually doing that. There's so many great Dragonflight details to get into through this video. First, we're also a game studio here, and our first proper look at The Pale Beyond, our first game, is happening Thursday at 6 p.m. BST live on this channel.
I should check out their video game.
Friday show, just on Thursday instead. I'll be there with Thomas, my co-founder, doing a demo, and there'll actually be a demo for you to play on Steam, and a few other things going on too. Till then, any wish lists are deeply appreciated for, of course, the algorithm gods. No matter what platform you're on, there's always an algorithm god. Okay, let's get into this. First up, the setting of Warcraft. Now this is a feeling that has came across in loads of interviews. Basically, Dragonflight is positioned towards people who did not feel like recent expansions meshed with them. I'm one of those people. It's an adventurous, high fantasy, focused expansion that's really more targeted on why we fell in love with the world of Warcraft in the first place. That's definitely good to hear.
The thing that bothers me about this is that I've heard this before with the marketing that they did for Battle for Azeroth, which was essentially like, we're going back to Horde versus Alliance. And then it's like, nah, we were lying. It was all about the old gods. What do you want? What do you want? Stop being such a needy bitch, okay? I mean, she's literally a bitch, so. Hey. She's a female dog. What?
It remains to be seen if they can actually pull that off, but that is a refreshing goal as compared to the strange edginess that WoW took on post-BFA. Okay, so now they're a little bit feeling better about the setting, let's talk about their philosophies on the playability of World of Warcraft. Borrowed power and friction came together to make Shadowlands a perfectly frustrating experience for many, many players. Well, Ian says they have changed their position on the role of friction in the design. And I suppose basically that means they've changed their position on where the meaning comes from in the phrase meaningful choice. I think that's what he's really getting at. And of course, their borrowed power.
Jesus, this is some serious speculation going on over here.
Power stance has changed as well, and he offered some insight into what has happened recently. Essentially, Ian said that, well, my interpretation, development timelines are a bastard. So, before Shadowlands came out, the team knew that they were moving away from borrowed power for the expansion after Dragonflight. expansions are pretty big and you do really need to plan those things in advance, so that does figure. And funny enough, that they weren't going to continue with that style of borrowed power, that was actually Preach's impression after his second interview with Ian. Anyway, the point is that Ian says they have learnt how bad it feels to lose borrowed power, and how earning it back again just feels rubbish, because in the back of your mind, you know you're just going to lose it again. Ian says they were basically feature locked on the development of Shadowlands.
What the fuck does that mean, we're feature locked? Like, how, just what kind of a lumbering development team do you have over there? It's like, oh, we're feature locked. And somebody comes in, provides feedback. It's like, yeah, this feature is shit though. Yeah, it's locked. Can't fix it. It's like, listen, fix it yesterday. Like, what the fuck, dude? What the actual fuck? We're feature locked. The fuck does that? Imagine it's like, oh man, this stream is going real bad. I'm definitely not going to change it. I'm going to continue making this stream as bad as it can possibly be. Yep, I'm feature locked in this live stream. Yep, that's it. Stream's bad. It's going to continue being bad. You guys are going to have to deal with it. Wait for the next stream if you want the good one. That's not how this shit works. Fix your shit, dude. What the fuck? Listen, I don't even care. Like, there's going to be people that are going to start saying, oh, but development's hard, development's this, development's that. And it's like, listen, dude. Here's what it all boils down to, okay? $15 a month for, like, let's say 3 million players. 3 million players, $15 a month. Say that you need to fix this yesterday. That's what that says. Or you need to lose that money. It's just that simple. I don't care. I don't care. Like, listen, I've been plenty patient with Blizzard, and I'm done. Just done.
And that was basically that. They were feature locked. They couldn't really change things for Shadowlands, but they knew they were going in a different direction after that. Now, look, if I was going to steelman Ian's position here, I'd say a game like this is made by a very large team. That means that things are not particularly agile. I think we all know that from the orgs we've worked in.
Changed it.
At a point, the design gets locked in, and if other features have been built around that design, like a sort of a build-around feature, especially if those features involve dozens of people's work, then you end up in a situation where you've kind of went in too deep, and you can't just change what you're going to do without significantly delaying, and clearly that's something they were not allowed to do. Now, that's the Steelman. Personally, let's just say, if that's really what their timelines are like, then I do just question their past judgment, but I suppose that's easy for me to say in hindsight. I think what probably matters more, though, is what's next. And that's what's good here, because just about everything Ian covered in these...
Sir, you don't think you'll be playing Dragonflight? I don't know. But like I said, I'll either play it or I'll never talk about it again. Because it's like I talk about Shadowlands. I criticize the stuff that happened in Shadowlands because I played it. I criticize BFA because I played it. I criticize Legion because I've played it. I criticize things that I've played. I don't criticize Mists of Pandaria, except for the talent tree, because the talent tree that came in with Mists of Pandaria ended up, staying with the game for a long time. So that I'm allowed to criticize. But I mostly don't criticize Mists of Pandaria because I never played it.
Interviews was good. Dragonflight's decision-making seems to be excellent compared to what we've had thus far. We'll have to see how it pans out in-game, but let's go through this. So, Zereth Mortis showed that better decision-making. Covenants were eased. There was no new borrowed power. Lots of nice things there. Loads of the community, though, thought, yeah, but it's just like patch 8.3, where you give us the nice shit at the end of the expansion. Ian was very...
And yet nobody, well, not nobody, some people recognize it, but yet a majority of the WoW content creators don't talk about the cycle. They've talked about it in the past, but now it's like, oh, but now we're hyped, so now we don't talk about the cycle. He keeps saying there's no borrowed power. I don't know what the borrowed power situation was like in Zereth Mortis. He's talking about Zereth Mortis.
Clear to say that these are not just end-of-expansion quality-of-life features. Ian said that it reflects a fundamental shift in their design philosophy, that's just how they'll be going forward. And everything else that he said really did reflect that. So here's a great thing. almost everything, bar gear, is going to be account-wide in Dragonflight. If you unlock a cosmetic from a reputation, you can use that in your alt. So you know that difference between, say, the Covenant Lock cosmetics on launch Shadowlands versus the no restrictions later on? A bit like that. As for gear, they've not worked out how alt catch-up stuff is going to work, which I think is fair at this stage. I think by default, though, I would just say you could maybe do what Mop did for catch-up and reps and things like that. Now, these principles extend to the new dragon riding feature of this expansion. Of course, you'll have speed upgrades, endurance upgrades for your little stamina bar. You'll have cosmetic unlocks too. And those are all account-wide. Your alt will soar as fast as your main. No.
Has this been confirmed? Where's the source for this? I don't think this has been confirmed. The flight mechanics? Dragon riding? I don't think it's been confirmed that your alts just get whatever dragon riding level you have on your main. Don't forget dragons riding dragons. They use their visage form to avoid that.
No re-earning stuff you've already earned. On the topic of linear narrative content, they've been thinking about how fun...
It's like, listen, if he's correct, that's a good thing, obviously. It's a good thing if he's correct and, you know, you don't have to grind it twice. But I don't think that's been officially confirmed. Very much like the whole thing, everything is account-wide. That's also not been confirmed. They've said, we want to look at things and decide which thing is fun to do again and which thing is not fun, and we don't want you to have to do the thing that's not fun again. But that's not saying, everything's account-wide, like he's reporting.
Are things to do again. And he said that linear narrative content will be skippable on alts. He said that people will play alts from week 1, and that means not making people wait months for the game to be alt-friendly. He was quite clear in
I literally heard the same thing, not even exaggerating. We literally heard the same thing in Shadowlands. In Shadowlands, they said literally the same thing. The game's going to be more alt-friendly. We're going to make it easier for your alts to catch up and all of that. And it was. At the start, it felt very alt-friendly. It's like, you do this thing and you do that thing. And then the systems were designed to scale in a way where it not only became alt-unfriendly, it became actually hostile. It was hostile towards your alts. That's the level that we've reached there.
Recognizing that there is basically some pain in waiting for those usability fixes. This is all fantastic news. And look, even if you're still cynical about it, think about it this way.
I am. Okay.
If he says all of this stuff, and then they go and not do that, well, then I guess you have a free win, don't you? So,
like, do you understand the logic that this man just employed? Is like, oh my God. Like, this is some really next level copium stuff right here. Okay. And again, I love Bellular. I love his content. But Jesus Christ, when it comes to World of Warcraft, he is just so hopeful. He is just so hopeful for it, dude. And I wish I could be that way, but I can't. Like, let me tell you, his argument right there is like, imagine somebody's pointing a gun at you. And you're like, you turn to that person that's pointing a gun at you and you're like, I bet you're going to shoot me if I turn my back, aren't you? And the guy goes like, nah, I definitely won't shoot you if you turn your back to me. And then you turn your back and he instantly shoots you. And you turn around and you're like, haha, I knew it. It's like, what the fuck kind of free win is that? I still got shot in the back. It's the same thing here. It's like, what the fuck kind of win is that? The game is still shit. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if he goes back on his word, I don't care about the free win. The game's still going to be ass. Like, what the fuck do I care about my free win? The worst part, the way that he just goes, if you're still cynical about it, if he says these things and then goes back on his word, you get a free win. It's like, I don't want a free win. I want a good fucking game. What the fuck, dude?
Overall, look, music to my ears. And with so much of the game opened up and talents replacing borrowed power, it really does seem like Dragonflight will be fundamentally better. And I think I'll be playing a lot more alts. So let's move on to some content questions then. Outdoor content. I've been disappointed by it for a long time, and that's why I was quite happy to hear a lot of what was said. So for reputations, WoD turned them very much into grind bars, Legion and beyond was mostly just world quests. Dragonflight changes that. The renown system is essentially the new UI, but they're not really like Covenants, and it does not seem that they're going to be time-gated. Ian explained that the time gating in Covenants was essentially to manage the player power curve, because borrowed power was very
bullshit. The time gating in Covenants was essentially to keep you paying out the ass for the game.
Very tied to Covenants. Even if it did mean that the game would sometimes just say no when you were kind of mid-playing. So it seems like these renown bars are going to be used in reputations that you could basically label as being major factions. And again, don't worry about the parallel to Covenants there. It really does seem like they're just big reps with a slick new UI. It seems that there is no hard renown style time gate. The rewards, with the exception of gear that has power, are all going to be account-wide. Fair play, really.
Not confirmed, by the way.
And the prospect of having better outdoor content is exciting. As an example, in another interview, Jeremy Fiesel said that they've actually staffed up the outdoor content team. So they've got a staffed up team. The world of Dragonflight seems to be large in terms of its zones. And you know what? Soaring around on a very fun to fly dragon with momentum and physics, going between big reps in a zone where you're not time gated, you can just lash into it. That actually does sound pretty damn good on paper. A reinforcing point to that is something Ian said with Asmongold, where Ian essentially said, look, we've perhaps underserved a silent majority of players with our open world content.
This is true.
I think that's Ian very much saying that the team understands they focus so much on the borrowed power, the dungeons and the raids and that kind of thing, that for the people who just want the World of Warcraft, some of that more casual open world experience, that they could do more, and it seems they're trying to do more. Now, Dragonflight, dragon riding then. So no combat in the system at launch, but they said the idea of bringing it into some combat content could work. I mean, I'd say, maybe not do Malago style combat, but even using them to say move from platform to platform in a dungeon or during a really big boss intermission phase, that would be quite cool. Because we're playing a video game, spectacle and fantasy matters. I don't know, diving off a platform away from a massive explosion on your dragon, swooping about, sounds cool.
Yeah, it does.
Now, Ian said initially, dragon riding is going to look like what we saw in the videos. So, essentially, it's going to be quite good out of the gate. It won't be a situation where you feel like you really need the upgrades to make it feel good. Which then says to me, how fast is this going
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay. It's like we got like 3-second clips from dragon riding. 3-second clips. Bellular's like, it's going to feel really good from the start. What? You got that information from 3-second clips? All right. Wait until you log into the game and you see the gauge, and the gauge lets you fly for 5 seconds at a time. It's going to feel great.
With the upgrades. Could that be fun? I mean, a while back, they mentioned you could go really fast, seemingly faster than current flying mounts. Which could be cool. I mean, the idea of
I certainly hope
off
so.
A big cliff faster than a current max speed mount.
See, that would be really cool. If they actually make dragon riding faster than regular flight, I think that'd be cool. I think that'd be way cooler. Yeah.
That's cool. It could feel incredible. And that said, this dragon riding system is a dragon flight expansion thing for the Dragon Isles.
Yeah,
they
borrowed
are
power.
open to the idea of allowing dragon riding outside, but for now, they're just focusing on doing it for the Isles. And if you do want the traditional flying, as we've come to expect, that is still in the long-term plan for this expansion. Of course, we're still not sure what this open world content will look like. As I said, Ian acknowledged they've underserved players in the open world content. In the Twitter space with T&E, he said that outdoor content needs to stand on its own for people who just play that, right? People for whom going around the world doing reps is their game. Him saying that is music to my ears. It's so good to hear them say that. And he went on to talk about how Zereth Mortis was, just kind of one zone where they were trying some new ideas. And essentially they want a continent with that philosophy. He even name-dropped protoform synthesis. So maybe there'll be a zone in Dragonflight that's like protoform synthesis in one thing that it has. Maybe another zone will have another thing. So I guess we can almost imagine they're giving each zone and its reps more of a gameplay theme, maybe if you like gameplay systems, perhaps trying to have it be more than just a bunch of world quests, maybe giving us that sense of world content progression from day one, instead of that sort of thing just sort of more coming in a patch.
It's like open world content is pretty much lackluster in most MMOs. If you're going to be completely real about it, like even, I play a lot of 14. I guess a lot of people would consider me a 14 Andy. Even in 14, open world content's a little bit lackluster. Like you go through it once during your MSQ, like maybe you go through it again if you're doing side quests and whatnot, or maybe if you need specific fates. But open world content usually just boils down to, okay, either you're fate grinding or you join like a hunt train or something like that. You do the hunt train, then you're done. So this is my opinion. Again, feel free to correct me on this. I think one of the MMOs that has some of the best open world content is actually Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 2 has fantastic open world content, in my opinion. My experience, so in Guild Wars 2 only really bother with open world. Yeah. I still think Guild Wars 2 is better for that stuff. I bet Bellular is doing this video so he can get alpha access. Even if this is true, I'm not mad. What? No. Why? Why do you think that him making these videos is going to give him a better chance at getting alpha access? See, that's the thing. That's not how it works. It's not how it works at all. Trust me, as someone that, does get access, early access to video games and stuff like that, I can assure you that's not how this works. It's not, I'm going to make all of these videos, and if I make all these videos, you're going to be nice to me. That's not how these relationships work at all. And from my point of view, despite all the criticism that Bellular has lobbed at them in the past, they would be complete idiots if they were to deny him alpha access should he request it, regardless if he makes the videos or not. Same thing for Preach, same thing for Asmongold, same thing for everyone. They would be complete idiots to deny them alpha access.
If true, I think that will be massive for the broad appeal of the base Dragonflight experience. And that's good. Instanced content then. Okay, they got into add-ons in the Asmongold interview. So Ian basically says that they do design with the knowledge of add-ons. Often it's them trying to counteract how add-ons work and how add-ons could trivialize fights.
Which
is
stupid.
Is that if they design for 0 add-ons, but then almost everyone uses add-ons, then the raid could just end up being easier than they intended, and that would just mess up the power curve.
Which is why you need to burn the middleman and delete add-ons. Isn't that simple? It really is that simple. You just don't have add-ons. You just ban players that use add-ons. You delete the APIs that allow the players to use the add-ons, which he said he could, by the way. And the Asmongold interview was like, well, we could, remove the APIs that these add-ons are hooking from. Good. Do it. Do it yesterday. Delete those add-ons. Fuck them. Don't care. Don't even care. It's like, there shouldn't even be a hint of hesitation. Delete them. Delete them yesterday. Done. Delete them. Finito. But no, they're not going to do that because they're scared. And when you're developing a video game from a position of fear, you're never going to do something truly great. If you're developing your MMO, or if you're developing any video game from a position of fear, you're never going to do something fantastic. It's never going to happen. Like, imagine if From Software was designing Elden Ring from a position of fear. You wouldn't have areas like the Halleck Tree. You wouldn't have bosses like Melania. You wouldn't have so much. You would lose like 50% of the game if developers were developing this video game from a position of fear.
So essentially, it's a right headache, and Ian admitted that they don't exactly know how to get out of this situation.
Delete the
Now,
add-ons.
what they have done is they've tried to telegraph things better so that players don't feel they need timers, but that they just are struggling with this sort of newer generation of computational add-ons that can really do a hell of a lot.
Ban
He
players.
gave an example of
Let's
even
go.
in Wrath Classic with Lanothel's Vampire Bite. Back in the day, and I remember this too, your raid leader shot calls that. But a weak aura could easily trivialize that. And that does make fight design harder for them.
Yeah.
They're not clear on what the path forward is, but he's thinking.
How can you not be clear? The path forward is clearly delete the add-ons. Unite the clans. Delete the add-ons. Unite the clans. It's simple. So basically, in a nutshell, World of Warcraft lacks vision. Yes.
Along the lines of restricting API access during combat, putting more class tracking features
Wait.
in the base UI.
What did you say?
Your raid leader shot calls that. But a weak aura could easily trivialize that. And that does make fight design harder for them. They're not clear on what the path forward is, but he's thinking along the lines of restricting API access during.
No, he's not. This is not what he said at all. This is not what he said at all. Oh, God. It's like everything that Ian said, Bellular just grabs the potentially most hopeful, most positive, player-friendly interpretation he can possibly get from that sentence and runs with it. It's like the same thing about housing, where Ian strictly said in the Hazelnutty interview, he went around in circles a little bit, but basically the answer was like, no. And Bellular was like, so you're saying there's a chance.
In combat, putting more class tracking features in the base UI, so what a lot of people do with weak auras, and then designing from that baseline. But he did acknowledge that just taking away people's toys would feel bad. So it's a struggle, and they're not sure. For me, I would say, you know what, fuck it. Massively restrict the API.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
Look at FF14. Look at how they
exactly
use some of the icons and their fight readability.
Yes.
I think we could get to a pretty good place.
Yes.
Now, one thing that's quite nice in the new UI they're making, the new base UI for World of Warcraft, is that there's essentially weak aura style tracking for core things, even including externals, which I think is, well, too late and required, but nonetheless very nice. Now, on Mythic Plus, so he said that the new season split, where, we get 4 Dragonflight dungeons, 4 older dungeons brought into Mythic Plus.
He said they could do it. He mentioned it as a possibility. Yeah, that is still a far cry from they're looking into doing this. It's like, we could do it. That doesn't mean we're thinking about doing it, which I don't think was ever implied that they're thinking about removing add-ons. He said we can do it. He never once said we're thinking about doing it. At least I didn't get that vibe, at least.
He said that's not going to include Shadowlands or BFA dungeons, and that they are open to tweaking older dungeons to give them a more modern gameplay feel. Though, really, they're thinking that's just Mists of Pandaria onward. It's funny, I think that is going to feel quite odd initially, but I do understand and agree with their goal, at least, of wanting each season of Mythic Plus to feel totally new in the same way that each raid feels totally new. Master Looter, then. Maybe we got good news here, everyone. Ian said
Good news, everyone!
That he kinda does want to bring it back. Now, he admitted that there's maybe problems with, how they actually go about doing that, but he admitted that, yeah, he'd like it back. Now, this is from a few reasons. He said part of it is them reflecting on where they have differed from the community recently. And the TLDR version of things here is that in Legion, they had to maintain essentially 2 versions of loot, even from like a data structure perspective, and that was a pain in the ass. They went to personal loot, it's had iteration, but it still has a lot of problems. Ian said the tradability clarity is bad, feels bad, and it's not like any of this has prevented World First guilds from doing crazy things. The problem is they can't just flip a switch in this one. So personal loot is definitely going to stay for most things, but the core idea of killing the loot boss and then dividing the loot between your group of friends, that is something that they want. Now, it does seem there are some tech challenges and some edge cases to fix. All of this impacts things such as, say, loot table design, but it's good to know it's something they want to ship. I would not expect it for 9.0, perhaps a little bit later, but I'm glad they've admitted that, yeah, there's something to say for Master Looter, and we'll get something to that effect back. Bit of PvP then. So long term, they want more battlegrounds and they want to make war mode stuff better, saying that the best war mode content is the stuff that's organic, like what happened in the 8.1 assaults in BFA. Totally agreed. I remember doing those 8.1 assaults and just sometimes I'd just be like, oh, I'm in here, I'm playing, and 30 minutes passes and there's just some fun PvPs happening. I'd love to see what they can do there. Now, on the topic of BGs, which is very interesting to me because it's my preferred form of PvP, they said that they do have to overhaul the battleground system, that adding a new battleground to a massive pool of battlegrounds doesn't change the experience as much as they would like, which is why they have liked the brawls feature, and they're going to continue to add brawls through Dragonflight. Now, Brian also mentioned that the PvP team has been basically expanded quite a bit, which potentially means there's more that could happen there. So that's quite exciting. Another thing for gearing in PvP, just in addition, is that professions actually fit in that they craft entry-level PvP gear, which will have a pretty damn good PvP item level, but of course a lower PvE item level. Then also, for the dragon riding system, there are unlockable PvP customizations, which I'd imagine could look pretty damn badass. So overall then, it seems that they are seeing the value of PvP, that they've made that team larger, that's great, but that there are structural things they want to fix up first.
I don't comment too much on PvP things because I've never cared too much for the PvP because I like playing Protection Warrior, and every now and then you can do some crazy shit with it, but most of the times you just feel pretty gimped, so yeah.
An example, I really want raided battlegrounds. A while ago with Bashira, those were mentioned as a good idea, a thing that they would like to ship. But they would need to do some work in the format.
There have been
raided
battlegrounds in the past.
Arena. They had to kind of do the solo shuffle situation there. So overall, I don't think there's going to be as much as I would like for PvP initially in Dragonflight. But it does seem like they have a number of pretty good thoughts and good directions. So maybe expect okay things for Dragonflight and significantly better gearing, but perhaps really big foundational things is 11.0. But I'm sure for a lot of people, rated solo queue, which is going to be there in Dragonflight, I think that'll be major. Classes then. Okay, a few interesting things on the Drakthir. So there's quite a few shared abilities between their 2 specs, which actually gives them great off-spec healing. They've got racials like a tail swipe knock-up and a wing buffet that knocks enemies back. So I'll tell you what, in a PvP situation, just sounds quite satisfying to use. So, seems neat. Now, resources. They use Essence, which regens over time, which makes me think, they kind of feel like a caster version of Hunter's Focus, perhaps? Now, Helinka gave us a bit more on empowered abilities. Those are the ones where they will be different depending on how long you hold the button. Design-wise, their idea is that the payoff will generally be, say, longer dots, longer hots, maybe more targets hit. Things like that, but they are being sure to avoid a situation where you'll just always want to do a fully charged empowered spell, because then it would just be a spell with effectively a 3-second cast.
Yeah.
I'll be interested to see how many just multiple niches or purposes they can get within one button with this system and how much depth there's going to be. Now, niche-wise for the Drakthir Evoker, the healing is going to essentially be an AoE clump healing focus, with also preparing for damage being a part of the kit, which is woven into their theming, being able to use like Bronze Dragon time magic. It seems interesting. They haven't added a healer since, of course, the Mistweaver Monk. Be kind of interested to see what a more modern, healer would be like. I mean, if you looked at Demon Hunter, that was like a sort of simple, smashy version of a DPS and a tank. So I kind of wonder what a modern design philosophy would do for a healer. Now on that, a lot of people were talking about the idea of a Drakthir Evoker tank. Ian said probably no to a tank because...
Please don't. Tank's already so piss poor balanced. Like, the balance on tanking is so incredibly bad. The last thing they need is another tank to have to balance around. Like, I feel like people that don't play tanks in World of Warcraft, they have no idea how piss poor tanking balance has been for the last couple of expansions. It's literally like, here's 2 good tanks and then like 3 shitters. It is 5 tanks right now, right? You got Demon Hunters, Warriors, Paladins, Monks, Demon Hunters, Warriors, Paladins, Monks, Druids. Am I forgetting something? I think it's 5 tanking specs. Oh no, Death Knight, 6. 6 tanking specs. And it's usually about 2 or 3 are good, and everything else is shit. That's usually about the way that it goes.
They are designed to be a caster, I imagine too. That's why they're not as bulky and chunky and full of protein shakes as much as a lot of people would have wanted from a dragon race. Because I think people think of dragons, they think of a big draconid with like a big pole arm that, beats the shit out of things. Instead, it's more of a slender caster. Maybe a bit of a mismatch with player expectations.
Yes.
But hopefully they sell it to us when we get it. Okay, other class things then. Rogue, Mage, and Priest are going to be open to all races on 11.0 launch. Others may be added over.
Let's make Rogue, Mage, Priests more popular in PvP. Yes.
Time, but that is going to depend on the amount of animation work that is required to add classes to some of the races. And then also some classes with quite strict lore may need new narrative establishment. For talents then, they basically said they want to have blogs up before the alpha for player scrutiny and feedback. And they also confirmed that popular passives and legendary effects from multiple expansions will make their way back into the talents. Also for Covenants, they're unsure about how many Covenant things they're going to bring in. I imagine there's theming problems there. But certain ones will be back, even allowing for some crazy situations where you could kind of use multiple Covenant abilities at once, but it's all a work in progress. Now, I've got to say, if you were to take the greatest hits of your class over the last 6 years, which credit to Blizzard, there have been some cool interactions and cool abilities.
Take the greatest hits of my favorite spec over the last 6 years. I'm just gonna get like a pile of shit. That's what you get for liking Protection Warriors, motherfucker. You get a pile of dog shit.
I mean, that could feel really good, and that could mean that we start Dragonflight and don't feel like our toys have been taken away, which I think would be a positive. Now, for some fundamentals of the talent system, there's 2 spending gates. So basically, you can only go so far until you've just spent X amount of points, and that's just so that people don't tunnel vision straight down the talent tree. Also, talent sharing, say via chat link, that's something they may end up doing, but not for launch. But I'd add to what's been talked about there that there's a decent chance an add-on could do this. Really, with talents, there's no need for me to belabor every point in this video because they're going to release blog posts and we'll see what they'll be like soon. Narrative then. And I'm going to start this with a nice thing from Ian via the Asmongold interview. He explained that Shadowlands was exciting to them as developers because it just let them build something totally new. But he qualified that response by saying, say what you will about Sylvanas and the Jailer. So, Ian knows. He was kind of poking a bit of fun there. He was acknowledging that sentiment about those characters and
You think you wouldn't know? Of course they know what they've done is shit. Come on.
that story existed. And I just felt it's good for the community to know that, a bit of the self-awareness, which is something that does inspire faith. Okay then, a bit of story with the...
You know what inspires faith? You know what I always have my son do whenever he fucks up? Whenever he does something wrong and he knows he done something wrong. You know what I always tell my son to do? Now you have to go say you're sorry. Go say you're sorry. Oh, they can't do that because they're a corporation. Oh. Wah, 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 wah.
Drakthir. So the Drakthir basically wake up after a long time in stasis. Their brains are a wee bit scrambled, so they have this kind of mysterious situation going on. Basically, it seems that Deathwing made them to deal with some sort of threat, and that they actually are a mystery to the other dragons. Alexstrasza does not know about the Drakthir existing. Now, of course, secret experiments, that is totally in line with how the Black Dragons have been portrayed. Now, whatever this mystery is, the Drakthir were created to deal with, we're going to find out in the starting zone, and we're also going to find out that it's waking up. So it kind of sounds like a future raid tier to me. Now, they actually teased us returning to the Drakthir starting zone at a later point in Endgame, so there could be some neat things there with, well, I mean, the important thing, Dragonflight establishing its mysteries and its cool lore things, and then perhaps actually paying them off. Now, no big narrative details were given away through these interviews, but I did like this bit from Steve. Basically, they want us to feel some optimism and hope. And, I hear that and I kind of think, is that an indication that they know that Shadowlands was too edgy? Too fatalistic? Just, Shadowlands, right? Which, maybe that is what it means, and if so, that would be good. Now, for the ending of this expansion, he said it will be epic and will involve characters that we, adventure with through the expansion.
Motherfucker probably thought the ending of Shadowlands was epic.
I just wonder if that was said almost as an acknowledgement that, yeah, we need to tell people the ending's going to be great because we know the Jailer one really wasn't that well received and felt a bit disconnected from things. It's tricky.
We're going to do it great this time.
I do need to see to believe, I would say. But at the very least, good sounds are coming out of them. Now, patch 9.2.5 is also mentioned regarding story, especially that something will happen in Tirisfal with Kalia and the Forsaken. Who knows what, but it's good to see Azeroth stories be continued. Now, this is not from the interview, but another thing is that we've seen encrypted narrative content on the public test realm. And Ian actually mentioned this in his Asmongold interview as well.
Dude, I was just thinking about the boob on that character is so big, it's in risk of becoming a bowl of fruit. Like, seriously, look at this.
Especially that something will happen in Tirisfal with Kalia and the Forsaken. Who knows what, but it's good.
Like, listen, this booba is so big, it is in serious danger of transforming into a bowl of fruit. Okay? I'm just, just calling him like I see him.
To see Azeroth stories be continued. Now, this is not from the interview, but another thing is that we've seen encrypted narrative content on the public test realm. And Ian actually mentioned this in his Asmongold interview as well. So I'm all for testing systems in the PTR and stuff, but the more narrative that we can keep secret for launch day, the better, because that just makes it more exciting. By the way, what sword? What?
There shouldn't be any narrative content in PTR, period, ever, at any point, ever. There should never be a raid in PTR. There should never be any of those things. Period. Period. End of. No debate. Like, I don't even understand how there's going to be bullshit. Okay? Literally every argument that you might have in favor of, like, raid content being placed in the PTR or narrative content being placed in the PTR is fucking dumb. You will see it when it's released in the video game. Of course not, because Blizzard can't afford to pay, proper people to QA their game. So they're going to have you pay them to QA their game. It's that same thing where, you know how some people, they go to work and the first thing they do when they get to work, they take a dump. It's like, hey, when you're good at doing something, never do it for free. It's kind of like the same situation here. It's like Blizzard's really good at taking money away from you. So they're not going to do that for free. They're going to have you test their game and have you pay for the privilege of testing it.
Sword. That's actually a quote from Ian. Ian said, "What sword?" So he's acknowledging that. And I think that does mean that they're being playful and they probably do have a plan for that damn thing.
Have you cleared DSR yet? What the hell is DSR?
There's a quote going around where Ian said, "Oh, we drained the power from it. It's just a splinter." I mean, my read of that was that it was sarcasm, because that would be a weird answer to give otherwise, and we only found out via text. So when we actually now see Ian talk about it, you know, as a human with emotions, yeah, he said what sword. So I do imagine there's a plan there. But I will say it would be great to get a world update, maybe showing what has happened in and around the sword.
There's the elite Silithus.
A lot of funky factions, a lot of cults. Could be a cool story. A few miscellaneous things to finish us off then. Basically, after Wrath Classic, they are open to ideas, and a lot is on the table. Classic Plus, please. I would do that. Also, for development, he said the expansion is quite far along, and that Alpha is coming soon. I would maybe expect late May. Also, they like Chromie Time, and they're rolling Shadowlands into Chromie Time because they decided that Shadowlands is just too crazy of a concept for a fresh player coming out of Exile's Reach.
Shadowlands never happened.
And then also, just, this is different, but tone. I just want to talk about the tone of the developers. It felt very different from some of the bits of, say, the first Ian Preach interview that got a bit frustrating. I just liked that. The tone seemed more open. It seemed more understanding of community frustrations. And that's something I really do appreciate from them. I think that's what the player base really needs to feel. Another thing, by the way, the Creation Catalyst, they like that, but they don't want to have to reinvent a whole new thing every tier, and that perhaps professions could fill that role, I imagine, with a BOP currency. But look, there you go. So if they're willing to listen to us and make good on that player feedback, we got to respond in good faith. Look, I am all for rolling out the cynical salt if they don't hold up their end of the bargain here. And I definitely feel more free to just...
For how long are you willing to roll out the cynical salt? Month? 2 months? How long? That's a real question.
Just completely share my thoughts and feel like a little bit more optimistic about things because there are no pre-orders right now, so I don't feel that responsibility of selling people down a river. But, you know, we it's not fair to set standards that they're never going to be able to hit. I want WoW to move in the right direction, and it seems like at least that is happening. This expansion has a focus on evergreen systems and game fundamentals. I think that could unlock...
I'll believe it when I see it.
...true good future. But the work that it will take to build those foundations that will allow for WoW to blossom over time, that work has to be done now. And I think that may leave Dragonflight without maybe 1 or 2 crazy, super marketable feature sets. But I think it absolutely does pave the way for those incredible things to happen at a later date. So that's my thoughts. That's some extra things from the interviews. Overall, pretty good stuff, I think. All right. This Thursday, 6 p.m. BST, join us on this channel for the stream going into our game. All right. See you then. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.
Yeah, it's like there's still an excessive amount of optimism. And like I said, I wish I could be as hyped as I see Bellular being. But it's just, I've been down this road before, you know? That's the way that I feel. I feel like I've been down this road before, and I've got screwed over plenty of times before. And like, I'm willing to take a look at it in a way. But I'm definitely not willing to be like, oh, dude, it's going to be great. It's like, oh, man, 1,000%, everything's account wide. They didn't say that. 1,000%, they're looking into these things. They didn't say that. Like, there's a lot of stuff that is not confirmed, that is being reported as confirmed. And, hey, look. Whatever, like he says, I might get my free win if they go back on their word. I'd rather not get that free win, but it's still frustrating to see. It's just frustrating. Cautiously looking at it is the best stance. Not even cautiously looking at it, just looking at it. I don't have to be cautious to look at something. I can just look at it and see what's going on. This is not about being cautious. It's just about, yeah, sure, I'll look at it. But we'll see. If they don't do what they said, would Bellular defend them? No, we'll be mad for a couple of months, and then he'll go back to the old wishful thinking, because that's literally what happened last time. Although I will say, because I don't know how many people here watch Bellular's podcast, because he does a podcast every Friday. And I'll tell you what, Bellular in these videos versus Bellular in the podcast, it's like two very different people. At least that's the vibe that I get. I mean, am I wrong here? Do you guys not feel the same? Those of you that do watch the podcast, I get very different vibes from video Bellular and podcast Bellular. Like podcast Bellular feels much more well-rounded in a lot of ways. I don't know. Maybe I'm just imagining things, but ultimately this is scripted content versus non-scripted content. So I don't know. Either way, it's still, did I not hit the like button? I was pretty sure I hit the like button. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed the video, hit it up with a like. But yeah, that's going to be it for this stream. I actually went a little bit longer than I should.